Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Plant Systematics class. In the previous video, we discussed flower of family Apiaceae, the various characters of the flower. Now we are going to take a look at the various floral parts, that is calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium, starting with calyx. We have just seen that the flower is pentamerous, still here, that is 5 or multiple of 5. So calyx in family Apiaceae, they are 5. Their number is 5. And polysepalous. Now this is an old term, poly. It is not used now, but anyway, it is still used in the literature. So poly has been substituted with apo, and that means free. That is when all the sepals in the calyx, they are free from one another and there is no fusion among the sepals, so it is apo. So polysepalous, or it will become, if we use the word apo, so aposepalous. So we are going to stick to this term apo rather than poly. So aposepalous and apopetalous. So calyx 5, sepals 5, and they are free from one another. Next is they are small. Their size is small, and sometimes they are so small that we use a very special term for them, what is known as ination. Now, ination or anation is term for a small leaf-like outgrowth which looks like a leaf, but it is not a leaf. So it is very small scale-like outgrowth, and it is leaf-like, but it doesn't carry the vascular tissue or the vascular supply in it. So this is what we call ination. So sometimes they are inations, like that is small, very small outgrowth leaf-like structures, but mostly they are actual sepal-like, leaf-like, and their size is small. So if they are very small and scale-like, then we use the word inations for them. So sepals, they are 5 in number. Polysepalous or aposepalous, they are free from one another. Their size is small. Now the sepals in Apiaceae, they are mostly adnate to ovary. Now adnate is a very common term used in botanical literature in describing plants. This is actually adnate. Now adnate is fusion of two parts, but they are not alike, that is unlike. So fusion of two unlike parts, like it is here. So we have sepals and they are adnate to ovary. So sepal is something different and ovary is something different. They are two different parts of the flower. And when sepals, for example, if we draw a basic diagram just to explain the term, so here it is. The sepals are now adnate. They are fused here with the ovary. They are attached to the ovary, and this is what we call adnation or adnate. So fusion of two unlike parts, two different parts. And sometimes you must have seen flowers in which stamens, they are borne on petals. So this is a petal, for example, so you will find stamen attached to. So this is adnate because it is attached to for some distance with the petals. Petal is something else and stamen is something else. They are two different parts, unlike parts. So fusion of two different parts is known as adnate. So they are adnate to ovary. Sepals are adnate to or attached to ovary. Next, we use a term odd. So odd sepal, odd petal. If sepals are 5, for example, these are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Or if we draw them in a circle, So this is, so as you can see, uh, one of them will be the odd one. For example, we have 2 and 2, and this one will be the odd, or these are 2 and 2 and this will be the odd, or 2 and 2, so this will be the odd. Since they are so odd, 2 plus 2, and this one, the fifth one, this is the odd sepal. Now where this odd sepal is located, so in case of Apiaceae, this odd sepal is posterior. So these are two words, odd and posterior. So I just told you what is meant by odd. What is odd? If the number of the sepals is 3, then the third petal is the odd one, and if it is 5, then the fifth one is the odd one. And how we determine that this is the odd petal? Because of its position. It might be anterior or posterior. Now this anterior and posterior position of the sepal is something which is related to the floral diagram, which we haven't discussed yet, and obviously it is a quite a lengthy discussion, and we are not going to go into detail because we are discussing the floral parts, the sepals, petals of the family Apiaceae. So for this particular discussion, posterior means the side of the flower which is towards the mother axis, the branch or the part of the stem on which the flower is born, on which the branch on which the flower is born is known as mother axis. So that part of the flower which is towards the mother axis, it is known as posterior. So this odd petal is towards, so to say, mother axis, so it is posterior. More about it inshallah in the discussion of the floral diagram. For the time being, all you have to remember that the odd sepal is posterior. What is odd? I have just told you that if it is 3, the number of sepals is 3, then the third petal is the odd one, and if it is 5, then the fifth one is the odd one. And the odd one has a special location. It might be anterior or posterior. So in case of family Apiaceae, the odd sepal is posterior. Next is their arrangement in the floral bud, and that is imbricate. The floral parts have specific arrangement in the floral bud, and in case of family Apiaceae and the arrangement of the sepals, it is imbricate. So let's find out what is imbricate, or what does it mean. Now this is actually part of or a type of estivation. So let's see what is estivation. So estivation, it is the arrangement of since we are talking about sepals, so arrangement of sepals in the bud, floral bud. However, it is not related to sepals only. Sepals are petals. So let's generalize it. Sepals are petals. So the arrangement of sepals or petals in the bud condition in the floral bud, it is known as estivation. So it has various parts or various types, various kinds, and one of them is imbricate. Now we usually indicate sepals or petals like this. For example, we have 5 sepals, so they may be arranged in the bud condition like this. The imbricate estivation is such that one of the sepals, it overlaps other 2, that is both of its margin are overlapping other 2 sepals, and one of the sepal is such that both of its margin are internal, or they are overlapped by other 2 sepals. So, and the rest of the 3 sepals are arranged in a such a way that one of their margin is being overlapped by other sepal, and one of their margin, the other margin, is overlapping other sepal. So let's see how. So this is the third one, and now this is the fourth one. As you can see, this one is being overlapped, this one is being overlapped by these two, this one and this one. Both of its margin are being overlapped by these two, and this is the fifth one. And this particular sepal is external to all. It is overlapping this one and this one. The rest of the three, as you can see, one of their margin is being overlapped, other is overlapping. One of margin is being overlapped and other is overlapping. And the same is with the third one. This margin is being overlapped and the other one is overlapping. So this is how they are arranged in the bud condition, what is known as imbricate estivation. So this is imbricate estivation. Let's draw it again. So this is the external, and as you can see, the same arrangement we have just drawn. So this is what is known as imbricate. Not a very good diagram, or not, somewhat ugly, but anyway, you get the concept that what is imbricate estivation. Overlapping, this is overlapped, the rest of the three have one margin, overlapped, other overlapping, overlapped, overlapping, overlapped and overlapping. So this is what we call imbricate estivation. This was the discussion of sepals. Next is the corolla or petals. So petals, like sepals, they are also 5 in number, and apopetalous. So they are free. All the petals are free from one another. Number 5 and free from one another. The tips of petals, they are reflexed. So this is another term in plant description terminology. Tips of petals, they are reflexed. So what is reflexed? For example, this is flower and we have petals. So the tip of the petal, it is bent backward like this. So it is bent backward or downward. So bent either backward or downward. So the tips of the petals, they are reflexed, that is, they are bent backward or downward. So like this. For example, this is the backward or downward reflexed arrangement of petals. So not whole petal, their tips are bent backward. For example, this is a petal, so its tip might be bent like this, like bent backward. So it is reflexed backward or downward. And as far as their size is concerned, size of the petals, so they are mostly unequal. Petals are not of equal size. Their size may be slightly different from one another. So this was their size comparing when we compare the petals. So petals may be of unequal size. As far as their color is concerned, it might be white or yellow. So the petals might be white or yellow. They are mostly of unequal size. Often they are unequal size. Their tips might be bent backwards or downwards, so their tips are reflexed, and their usual number is 5, and they are apopetalous, free from one another. And finally comes their estivation, their arrangement in the bud condition, and it is also imbricate like those of sepals. So what is imbricate? We have five petals, and they are arranged in such a way that two petals, one of the petal is external and one is internal, and the other three are such that their one margin is inside or overlapped and other margin is overlapping. So this is the condition. So this is what we call imbricate. So their estivation in the bud condition, their arrangement with respect to each other in the bud condition is imbricate. Or their estivation might be valvate or valvate. So this is another arrangement of petals in the bud condition. Valvate is such that the petals, they do not overlap each other. No petal overlaps the other one. So they simply touch or meet at their edges. So this is the condition. So they are not overlapping. None of the petals is either overlapped or overlapping. So they simply touch their edges. So this is valvate condition. There is no overlapping of any kind. So valvate, no overlapping. The sepals or the petals, whatever the case might be, in this case it is petals. So the petals do not overlap. No overlapping of petals. They simply meet or touch at the edges. So this was the description of Calyx and Corolla of the family Apiaceae. In the next video, inshallah, we are going to discuss the androecium and gynoecium. So that's in the coming video. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.